Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 10 of the Mean Lady Talking podcast. I wanted to give you a short intro to this podcast. This is going to be my podcast response to a somewhat famous letter that I received called Resolving Our Anger at Narcissists. But I wanted to let people know that in the podcast version of my response, I'm talking to everybody, especially codependents. But at the end of this particular episode, I give advice on exactly what to do. And the advice of exactly what to do applies to everybody trying to get through a breakup, not just a codependent trying to get over a narcissist. And if you're a codependent getting out of any kind of relationship, this podcast is definitely for you. I talk about people getting out of relationships with people that are not only narcissists, but people who are active in a disease such as alcoholism or drug addiction, people who are abusive, people who are just extremely dysfunctional. It doesn't really have a tag. And even I talk about getting out of a relationship with somebody who doesn't fall into any of those categories. So the advice that's on this podcast is really for everybody. No matter what kind of relationship you're getting out of, no matter where you fall on the codependency spectrum from 0 to 100, no matter how disordered or dysfunctional your ex is, this advice in this particular podcast really can apply to absolutely everybody. So please be sure to let me know what you think of the podcast, let me know what you think of the advice, and let me know what you need in order to make it a little bit more personal to you and your own particular situation. If you want to come on the podcast, please write me at meanladytalkingpodcast@gmail.com. And I will arrange a Zoom call on your schedule, on your time frame, and I will accommodate whatever needs you have as far as time and time constraints are concerned. So please let me know. And so away we go. One of the, I want to say, famous letters that I've ever received in the history of the blog, Resolving Our Anger at Narcissists, but it's not just about being angry and it's not just about narcissists. So please sit back and enjoy. And if you check out the show notes, I will put down exactly what happens at what particular time. So enjoy. Talk to you soon.
Welcome to the Mean Lady Talking Podcast. This is the podcast that tackles tough questions about relationships, life, love, and loss. It may not be the advice you want, but it's probably the advice you need. And now here's your host, grief therapist, motivational speaker, relationship expert, best-selling author, and attorney, the not really mean lady herself, Susan J. Elliott.
Good day, everybody. Welcome to the Mean Lady Talking Podcast. My name is Susan Elliott, and I am the host of the Mean Lady Talking Podcast. And I want to welcome you to episode number 10. We're in the double digits, and I want to thank everybody who has been giving the podcast wonderful reviews and subscribing through iTunes and Google Play and TuneIn and Stitcher, wherever you're subscribing. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for doing nice reviews on the Mean Lady Talking Podcast Facebook page and for giving nice reviews on iTunes. That's really important since iTunes is the number one place where people listen to podcasts. Anyway, today is number 10, and we're going to be doing Mail We Got Mail. Now, back when I was writing for Psychology Today, before they decided that they were going to take the side of abusers, there were cyberbullies who were taunting me and who were saying things about me that weren't true. And Psychology Today yanked me and took their side. And it's always publications that are running scared because they think that something terrible is going to happen. Apparently, these guys came after me during a very emotional viewing. I was making a comment on a Scientology show, and Leah Remini retweeted something that I tweeted, and then all hell broke loose. There were people out there that just didn't like her, and then because she retweeted what I wrote, they didn't like me. They went after me. They attacked me. They insulted me. They said all kinds of things to me, and when I fought back, they took what I said when I called them idiots because they were acting like idiots. And they sent that to Psychology Today. And they said that one of the people that I called an idiot was a child, although they were never identified as a child. And what the hell were they doing up at 10 o'clock at night watching something on Scientology and attacking me over it? And Psychology Today yanked me for no reason whatsoever over, I was fired while I was at work at my job as an attorney. I didn't even know this was going on. They never gave me a chance to talk about it. But anyway, while I was a writer for them, I wrote some of these letters that people had sent to me over the years, and I republished them on Psychology Today, and I republished my responses. And this one had brought a lot of traffic to Psychology Today. All of my articles brought a lot of traffic to Psychology Today. I have no idea why they would take the side of cyberbullies against one of their writers who had brought their site a lot of traffic. I don't get it. But anyway, this particular letter got a lot of traffic because people didn't like my answer. They thought I was being mean. So without further ado, I'm going to read the letter and my response, and you'll get a bit of a flavor of the mean lady talking. So here we go. Dear Susan, I lived across the street from my ex, who seemed to be watching me, as well as his mother, who visits him often. I moved out of there 3 months ago after taking a trip to the U.S. to visit my family. My mother and I have never really gotten along, and the trip was no different. We had a huge falling out and have not spoken since. Please keep in mind that during the past few months, I've been struggling with the breakup with my ex, who is a full-blown narcissist. I know that he's a full-blown narcissist because he meets 8 of the criteria for narcissism, and I joined the support group on the net called the Web of Narcissism, and this seems to be helpful. I even find myself giving support and helpful advice to others who are just coming out of their narcissistic relationships. My problem is this. Even though I have moved away from my ex, realized that he's personality disordered, and I think it's more of a moral disorder, and that he is a true narcissist and can't ever change, and I'm slowly meeting new people and more focused on work, I find some days that I'm still so angry at him for his mistreatment toward me. All I ever wanted to do was love him. And this is the part that people get upset about because I kind of ding her on that whole concept. This morning I sent 3 nasty text messages to him to which he hasn't responded, and I'm glad. I just wanted to vent at him and hopefully release some of my anger. Well, rationally, I know that he's sick, and I find myself on certain days full of anger toward him. I don't want my rage and distrust to carry over into future relationships, those of which I'm not searching for right now, so I'm dumping the rage that I feel about him on him. I know that I have work to do within myself. I came here to Europe to live my dream. I feel like sometimes I'm numb. I don't know if it's him, or perhaps I was a little numb to start with, and that's why I was attracted to him in the first place. Please let me also add that I know that I'm a raging codependent, and that's why I find myself in this situation in the first place. All my life, I've been building up to finding the great narcissist of my life so I could finally begin to learn my life lesson and stop degrading myself. Being around my mother last summer made me realize so many things and parallels between my own childhood growing up and the situations that I found myself in during my relationship. Realizing the similarities gives me hope that I am growing as an individual. My main questions are: 1, when will the anger and feelings of injustice about his behavior toward me and the rotten treatment that he received from his childhood, which ultimately affected our relationship, go away? And 2, why is it that when I am supposedly living the dream that many would like to have, but I can't seem to get out there and enjoy myself? What am I afraid of? Am I afraid to live? Really live full of joy? Does that sound weird or what? Any ideas, suggestions, or advice would be greatly appreciated. Okay. Now, this has been published on the blog a few times. And like I said, I published in Psychology Today, and people went just a little berserk when I gave her a response, because people thought that it sounded like a very nice letter of this woman who's sincerely trying to move on. And I will say that that's not what it sounds like to me. My answer to her is, your experience is very common after breaking up with a narcissist. The first thing that people who are breaking up with narcissists need to remember is that codependents fall in love with people that they think they can save. So any codependent that goes into a relationship with somebody who has some issue, it doesn't matter if it's something that seems a little benign like commitment phobia or something really dangerous like narcissism. A codependent is looking to change something about somebody. They're looking to save this other person from themselves. They could just be a flake who's not good with money or who doesn't have good boundaries in his life, his or her life, or has some other what we would call benign characteristics. They're just kind of a screw up. They just kind of can't get their act together. And codependents really love to pick up these project people and set them all straight. And then there's codependents that like to get into relationships with the alcoholics and the drug addicts, and they like to run around after them, trying to get them to go straight. Then there's the codependents that like to go after the cheaters and the losers and try to figure out why they're cheating. And then the codependent becomes so focused on the cheating, the spying, and the investigative powers. There's so many codependents who can say, I'm a great hacker, I should be an investigator, I should work for the FBI. It's like, seriously? No, you should be living your life. That's what you should be doing. There's so many codependents that get stuck in that. Absolutely stuck in that. And the internet has made it so much worse because they can hack to their heart's desire all night long, all through the night. Before the internet came along, there was only so much you could do with investigative stuff. I mean, you could hang out in front of somebody's house all night, but that usually did not result in something fruitful. Usually you'd fall asleep in your car and nothing would happen. But you can search and search and search on the internet all night long. So if you're a codependent and you're focused on somebody else, you could be off to the races. If you think I can figure out exactly what's going on with this person, instead of figuring, why do I need to be with somebody that I need to figure out what's going on? Why don't I just find somebody that's trustworthy? But when you're with somebody that has a deep mental health issue, like suppose this person really is narcissist. I don't know. She says he meets 8 of the criteria, which you don't need to meet 8 to be a narcissist. But who knows that she's right? I used to do diagnostic work, and maybe she is, maybe she's not. I don't know. But the thing that you have to know as a codependent, that the challenge for codependence is that you need to stay focused on yourself. And you need to be recovering from focusing on someone else. This woman's letter tells me that there is a lot of raging codependency going on. And when I say raging codependency, I don't mean that she's raging and she's codependent. I mean, her codependency is raging. It's raging out of control. One of the clearest signs of codependency is confusion over boundaries and confusion over who owns what. It helps a lot when you're a recovering codependent to get really clear on what you own and what the other person owns. This woman feels like a victim, and on many levels she might have been, but it also would help her to know that she was in control of a lot of things. I know what it's like to feel like the victim of an abusive person. And while I absolutely was a victim, and I say this almost every time I talk about my own abuse, I also had a hand in the victimization. If you don't take responsibility for your part in your own victimization, you can never recover from it. When I get tough with people that have been in an abusive relationship, I say it to empower them, not to belittle them, not to insult them, not to add to their misery. But there are things that people who are victims, who have felt like victims, can absolutely do something about. When you're a codependent, you confuse a lot of things. 1, you need to get clear, very clear, on who owns what. This person, and just about any codependent who's ever been involved with a narcissist or somebody with a mental health disorder or some raging addiction, alcoholism, mental health issue, whatever it is, you have to get very clear on who owns what. When you're a codependent, you come out of these crazy relationships very jumbled. And this woman is jumbled, which is normal coming out of a relationship with a narcissist, because narcissists tell you that up is down and down is up and everything's your fault. And people that are in abusive relationships go through that with gaslighting. There's a lot of relationships where you come out and your head is just spinning in every kind of direction. But once you get out of the relationship, it's very important to get clear on who owns what and what you need to do about what you own. You need to step back and you need to journal. You have to get readjusted to your new reality without this other person in it. Narcissists and sociopaths and other corrosive people, and this could be drug addicts, alcoholics, very dysfunctional people, abusive people, can twist your heads inside and out. So the first order of business is getting clear again, and journaling helps about that. It really helps about that. The second thing you need to know is that your anger belongs to you. It does not belong to him. It does not belong to your mother. It does not belong to his mother. This person mistreated this woman who wrote this letter because he's a narcissist, pure and simple, and he doesn't care about her or her anger. She needs to stop telling him that she's angry. He doesn't give a damn. He doesn't give a damn. He doesn't care, and he doesn't have to. It's not his to own, even if he was not a narcissist. Even if he was just a person who they got together, they had a relationship, and it didn't work out, and he wasn't incredibly dysfunctional, and he wasn't alcoholic, he wasn't drug addicted, he wasn't personality disorder, he wasn't any of those things. He was just a person that it didn't work out. Even if that was the case, her anger belongs to her and not to this other person. Narcissists don't care, and other people might care, but it's not theirs to deal with. Even if they did you wrong 1,000 times over, it's not for them to deal with. It's for you to deal with. And it's not okay for you to spew at them. I don't care if it's an alcoholic you're spewing at, an addict, they are deep in their addiction, they don't care at all. Narcissists, sociopaths, they don't care at all. Abusers, they don't care at all. Nobody cares. Even if it's a nice guy who you just didn't get along with and you both decided to break it up, and you decided later on that you're angry with him because you didn't get along or whatever it is, and he might care, there's no reason to send your anger to him. He doesn't have anything to do with it. Your anger belongs to you. Deal with it. Stop spewing it at people. You own it. Deal with that. Whenever we break up with someone, we have to go no contact. You have to stop going to somebody for a reaction they're never going to have. This woman has to stop venting at him and stop trying to release her anger by blowing up at him. It's unhealthy and unhelpful. If you have anger, you need to talk to others, write in your journal, read, break dishes, hit a heavy bag, exercise, run, walk, scream into a pillow, scream in the car, all those things. But what you don't need to do is go to the other person with it. It's not good. It's not helpful. It's not healthy. You need to read and reread the no contact chapter in Getting Past Your Breakup. You must commit to no contact if you want to heal and move on. Her other thing that drove me absolutely wild in this letter was, all I wanted to do was love him. That is a classic codependent or martyr refrain. It feels like all I wanted to do was love him, but it's not a helpful thing to think about. Lose it. Lose all I want to do is love him. All I want to do is love him. No. Codependents have agendas. Let's be clear about this. I know codependents have agendas. And I can tell you that codependents have agendas because I've been a raging codependent. I know this. I always tell people I'm not just a talking head. I've been here. I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing 10 days before you do it because I've done it all. You can forget the little, I just want to love him. Stupid, stupid, stupid refrain. Get rid of it. Nobody cares. You didn't just want to love him. That's a bunch of nonsense. In order to get well, you have to get honest with yourself. And if you're looking for sympathy, you'll find it in the dictionary between shit and syphilis. All I want to do is love him is a classic codependent refrain, a classic martyr refrain. Lose it. And at the end of the day, even if it were true, all I want to do is love him. Who owns this? You do, not him. You fell in love with and gave love to someone completely incapable of loving you back. So even if you had the feeling of love and expressed it as in doing something for him, it went nowhere. It was wasted. And it was wasted because you made a poor choice in picking who to give it to. And who owns that? You own that. Let's all of us get clear. Who owns that? You own that. It's very, very important that you understand when you come out of a relationship that when you say stupid stuff like this, you own that. You fell in love with somebody who early on gave you enough red flags, enough hints, enough suggestions and ideas that there was something amiss that you decided to ignore and forge straight ahead, or you weren't healthy enough to understand it, whichever it was, and you wasted those emotions on somebody who was not capable of loving you back or giving you the relationship that you needed or wanted. So you have to take responsibility for that. You have to take responsibility for wasting anything that you did for this person who is completely incapable of giving it back to you. You have to take responsibility for it and not say, oh, poor me, I was doing this, I was doing that, I was so good. No, you're an idiot, you're a fool. It's like, stop it. Just stop it. The reason that you have been with this person is that you had a narcissistic mother to deal with. We all pick people who reflect those that we've had difficulties with in the past so that we can recreate our struggle, but this time we want to win. On a subconscious level, this woman picked a narcissist to recreate the struggle with her mother. When you work through the issues with your mother, you stop doing that. Whenever you've been in a relationship with somebody who's very disordered, whether they're alcoholic, addicted, personality disordered, just extremely dysfunctional, you can look at your early caretaker relationships and you can pretty much find out, I am trying to recreate the struggle that I had, but this time I want to win. You're not going to win. The only way to win is not to play the game. But you have to go back and you have to do the life inventory in getting past your breakup. You have to do the life inventory and look at your relationships. You have to do the mother inventory. You have to do the father inventory. This person said she had a narcissistic mother. And I know that wasn't in this letter, but this person had written to me once before, so I knew this. She had a narcissistic mother, and she was attracted to narcissists. Imagine that. She had to go back. She had to do the mother inventory. That's what she has to do. She's going to continue to pick narcissists, continue to pick, if her father was a raging codependent, she's going to pick codependents. That's going to be codependent hell with 2 codependents. You cannot win over the early struggle by recreating it in your relationships. You have to go back, you have to look at it, you have to do your inventory, you have to figure it all out, you have to cry, you have to get angry, you have to get mad, you have to grieve the relationship you never had with your mother, the one you wanted with your mother, the one that you're never going to have, the one that she's never going to give you. It's a long road to go, but you have to start understanding that things like I only wanted to love you works against you. Lose this idea. You have to be loved back. You can't say I only want to love you. You have to demand that someone love you back. You can't just go into relationships wanting to love other people. You need to learn how to be loved. If someone doesn't love you back, it's worthless. You can't love a narcissist into being loving or fair or kind. They don't have it in them. It's not in their DNA. They're programmed to act like jerks. That's part of the disorder. Get it into your head and get over it. It's helpful to understand that love is not part of the equation with narcissists. They're not capable of it at all. Forget it. Move on. Get over it. The next thing she talks about is her anger over his mistreatment in childhood. Like, if he wasn't mistreated in childhood, they would have a good relationship. She wouldn't even be with him if he was a normal person without narcissism. She hasn't worked through the relationship with her mother, so she's trying to recreate it in all kinds of relationship with narcissists. So she wouldn't have even been with him if he wasn't mistreated in childhood, and that mistreatment turned him into a narcissist. In any event, it doesn't matter. He owns his mistreatment in childhood. You have no right to get angry about it. It doesn't matter why he's the way it is. It only matters that he is the way he is. He's never going to be angry about it. And if you're angry about it, it changes nothing. Only he experienced it, and only he internalized it, and he internalized it to become a personality disordered schmuck. There's no sense in being angry at what happened to him. You need to understand that when a person has unresolved issues that they refuse to deal with, there's nothing you can do about it. And that makes a codependent feel very powerless. What do you mean I can't do anything about it? Codependents are used to running around and controlling and helping everybody. But that's so they don't have to look at their own stuff. It's not because they have any idea of what to do about anything. It's just for them to not have to deal with their own stuff. His childhood mistreatment doesn't belong to her, and she's having an over-empathic reaction that will harm her in the end. No one should care more about what happened to their partner than they do. And this guy doesn't care. He's not dealing with it. We make up for that which is lacking in our partner. So he's completely devoid of empathy, and she has too much. And too much empathy equals enmeshed boundaries. And you could tell from her letter that she just has no idea where he begins and ends and she begins and ends. She needs to knock it off. This is not her deal to be angry about. She has to look at her own stuff and leave his baggage at the side of the road. It's not hers to carry. She can drop it now. It's not anything she needs to drag through the airport anymore. She needs to do the relationship inventory and getting past your breakup, the life inventory, and the mother inventory. She has to figure out that her issues with her mother are most likely driving a lot of her unhealthy choices. Figure it out once and for all. Now, the other thing that she talked about was that she's living the dream and that she should be feeling joy about her situation. But you cannot feel joy at your living situation until you work through your stuff and take care of you. I'm almost never envious of other people's opportunity, but I can say that I'm envious of anyone who's living in Europe and pursuing their dream. It's so great, and you need to be mindful of how lucky you are and how much that means to you. And if you just get down to focusing on you and doing your work, you'll be able to enjoy living the dream. You have to spend each day journaling, walking, getting out, and trying to observe, to really be where you are. And anybody who has the workbook, and the workbook is available on gettingpastyourbreakup.com on the little black space above, it's in there. But at the very beginning of the workbook, it talks about observation, and it talks about how bad we're all getting to be at observation. And to really pick a good, healthy partner next time, we have to become really good at observation. So you need to spend some time turning off all the electronics, unplugging, going for a walk without anything, without your phone, without anything to distract you, and just try to get your head where your feet are. Learn to become in your skin. Learn to be comfortable with the skin you're in. Codependents are really bad at that. And codependents have to get really good at that because they're so busy mucking around everybody else's stuff that they can't stop and think, what am I doing wrong here? Why am I worried about what they're doing and not worried about what I'm doing? Codependents are famously uncomfortable with themselves, which is why they find saving others so attractive. And they don't consider it saving others. They consider it doing a whole bunch of other things. They don't consider it saving. They don't consider it controlling. They're just helping. They're helping. I'm just helping. No, you're not helping. You're controlling, you're saving, you're being a fool. It's time to go inward and save yourself. You need to write gratitude lists every single night. You need to learn to be happy and grateful for what you have in spite of it all. You need to learn to appreciate that you're no longer with the crazy narcissist and his mother and your mother. Get out and live the dream that you are over there for. Forget about all these crazy people. Now, you talked about going on the web of narcissism and giving good, helpful advice. I don't know how you're doing that because you cannot give it away until you have it. And it doesn't sound sound like you have it. You need to be listening to others right now and sharing, but you need to stay focused on your stuff first. You can't leap to helper. And with codependence, that's a really dangerous thing to do when you first start recovery. You can't start leaping into helping and being the great super helper. You don't go on to a place that you've discovered, okay, I just discovered my ex is a narcissist. He meets 8 of the DSM criteria, and now I'm going to go to the web of narcissism, and I'm going to start helping everybody. No. You need to go to codependency and listen. Forget about going to the web of narcissism and helping everybody. You need to worry about your issue, which is codependency. You know he's a narcissist. You don't have to muck around in the web of narcissism. You know he's a narcissism. You know he's a narcissist. I always say to people, don't get overly involved in what's wrong with your ex. It's good to know what you're dealing with because it's good to know, okay, this person is never going to love me. This person's never going to see the light. This person's never going to feel guilt. This person's never going to care what they did to me, so that you can let go. It's helpful to know this person's a narcissist, but it seems like you know he's a narcissist. You're still throwing your rage at him in text messages. And he doesn't care. So stop doing it. So you're not really learning anything by knowing he's a narcissist. Not really helping you in the way that it's supposed to help you. Get the information you need about, okay, this is a person who's an alcoholic. When they're deep in their disease, they're not capable of loving anybody. Okay, this person is a narcissist, and narcissists are incapable of loving anybody. Okay, this person is. That's all you need to do. You only need to deal with this stuff to the extent that you can use it to understand that they're not going to change and that you need to move on. But you don't go on the web of narcissism or, partners of alcoholics or whatever it is and start going there and helping other people when you haven't even recovered from being in your relationship with this type of person. You need to put the focus on you. Get off the web of narcissism. You understand he's a narcissist. You've taken that information, and that's all you need to worry about right now. You have to be careful of helping others when you're still so raw yourself. There will come time to pass it on. And I always tell people, there's a lot of people that have come and gone on the GPYB blog over the years and now the Facebook group. And I ask people, I understand that when you start moving on, you start healing, you're dating again, etc. You really don't want to listen to people who are brand new at breaking up and struggling with NC and all this other stuff. But it really helps to keep it if you spend some time giving it away. So I just tell people, come back to the blog, come back to the Facebook group, and share a little. Tell people, help new people that are struggling with these things. It really helps. But when you're brand new to all this, and this person, even though she's been away from him for a while, she's brand new. She hasn't been doing the recovery yet. You will come to the place where you have healed and you will be able to help someone else heal. But right now, you're not there. You cannot give it away until you have it. You have to work on learning and growing for you right now, not for someone else. So forget about helping someone else. Get off the web of narcissism. Get on some codependent site. You need to continue to take care of you. You need to deal with what you own, leave the ex alone, and work on your codependencies and your boundaries. You need to know that you begin and end somewhere, and he begins and ends someplace else, and where he begins and ends is none of your business. You need to spend time each day giving yourself credit for the courageous steps you've taken and the courageous steps you'll continue to take. There are many people that are still enmeshed with narcissists. They still think they can change something. They haven't learned that they can't. They're still rolling around in the mud. Give yourself credit for being out. Stay out. Don't text or email your ex anything. He doesn't care. Leave him alone. Know what you own, know what he owns, and the two shall never meet. Leave him alone. Spend time giving yourself credit each and every day for leaving him alone, for owning what you own, and leaving what he owns alone. Spend at least one day or one night each week doing something good for you. You cannot do this work. And if you're going to look at your mother's stuff and your ex's stuff and all this other stuff, it's going to be hard. If you're going to grieve this relationship and move on, it's going to be hard. And you cannot work out the bad stuff without working in the good stuff. You have to do the self-care. You have to unplug sometime each day, sometime each week. You have to get your head where your feet are. You have to get into observation mode. And you also have to go into self-care mode. Make sure that you are doing something good for yourself. I used to do my self-care on Thursday nights and Sunday mornings. That was the best time for me. As time went on, I started to do it a little bit more than that. I used to take like a whole day sometimes. And then later on, I even took a whole weekend. But you build up to that. The next thing that I'm going to talk about, not on the next podcast, but the next time that I'm going to talk about narcissists, I'm going to talk about co-parenting with the personality disorder. That's going to come up in another podcast very shortly. So stay tuned for that. If you have any questions, please send them to meanladytalkingpodcast@gmail.com, or you can tweet to me. It's @meanpodcast on Twitter. Please follow me on Twitter. Or you could go to the Mean Lady Talking Facebook page, and you can send me a message on that. Stop by, say hello, tell me what you like, what you don't like. And if you're having any issues with codependency, our codependency boot camp is going to be opening up very shortly. This is June 2018. So in case you're listening to this later than that, I hope to open the registration in the first week of June 2018. And if it's later than that, you can always join our mailing list. If you go to the website, gettingpastyourbreakup.com, there's a thing that says join our mailing list, and you will get early notifications of boot camps and things like that, so you won't miss any future ones. And I will talk to you all on the Facebook group and on the Facebook page. And please email me. Let me know if you have any questions. Take care, everybody. Take good care of yourself. And hey, you can do it. Take care, everybody.